the Board of Ellis County Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bobby, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Joe LaRue.
Here.
Chair Butch Schleier.
Here.
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Order of business. I believe there's no changes to the order of business tonight. Prior minutes, Commissioners, did you review the prior minutes?
Everything's good.
Okay. Minutes stand as submitted. The consent agenda, do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business. No one's jumping up out there. The monthly financial reports. Gentlemen, did you go over the reports?
Everything's good to me.
Okay. The next agenda item is the 2021 financial audit. Melissa?
Good evening. I brought with me this evening Jamie Benachek, and she's going to go over the management representation letter with you, governance management letter with you. We're going to take a couple looks at the audit report and see what things look like at December 31st of 2021. I would have you go ahead and open it up to page 4. Pages 1, 2, and 3 is the actual audit report. And within the audit report, we tell the reader of the financial statements that you have an unmodified opinion. It is, though, adverse because it's not done upon generally accepted accounting principles. However, it's unmodified because you do regulatory basis of financial statements. And that just means that you're reporting your cash when you receive your cash, and then your expenditures are any encumbrances. And an encumbrance could be an accounts payable, or they're anything that you've entered into by the end of the year. So any contracts that you as county commissioners are approving, those are also included, and any accounts payable. And accounts payable are items that you've ordered in by the end of December 31st, but you just didn't receive them or get the bill for them until January or February of the next year. And so that's your regulatory basis of financial statements. On page 4, this right here is just a snapshot, and what the audit does is it looks at your compliance, and it looks at compliance through December 31st of 2021. And so looking at this right here, I'm going to step you back. You have on the right-hand side of the page, it's your ending cash balance, and so that's ending cash. That means all the cash that you had in the bank at that moment in time. If you go over one column over, just as I had indicated, we add back encumbrances and accounts payable. The third column from the end is your ending unencumbered cash balance, and that ending unencumbered cash balance would be your fund balance in a for-profit business. So it means your assets less liabilities equals ending unencumbered cash, okay? And so taking a look at that for this year, I'm just going to point out a couple of funds, and the first one we're going to look at is the general fund. And the general fund ending cash balance had actually decreased by about $563,000 down to $4,501,406. And so in the past year, you did some transfers out, and the budget that was consumed during the year was 96.4% of the total amount of budgeted expenditures was actually spent for the county at that point. If we take a look, I want to look at the special highway improvement funds. And within that fund, it appears that it did go down from $6.7 million down to $1,397,000. But again, last year's beginning unencumbered cash balance included the general obligation bond that was not expended until 2021, and that was $5,325,000. And so again, if you take a look, if you would back out that number from the beginning balance to what was left at the end of the year, it's very consistent. Really didn't change that much except for a couple $1,000s. I'm going to jump down 4 or 5 line items, and we're going to look at the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. Capital Improvement Reserve Fund, which is set up by statutes, is a non-budgeted fund. And in that fund, those are, you can use it for infrastructure, building improvements, architect fees for your buildings, those types of things, and it's spelled out per the statute. At the end of the year, you had transferred in about $2.2 million, so that increased the overall ending unencumbered cash balance to $3,101,858. If we take a look at the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund, again, we did have a transfer in of about $643,000, and so that ending unencumbered cash balance is at $3,446,475. A couple other items to note, about 8 line items down. The ARPA funding is in your ending unencumbered cash balance, and that amount is $2,647,056. We also take a look at the solid waste fund, because the solid waste fund is operated a little bit differently. It's like a for-profit business, and so you're looking to make sure that your revenues exceed your budgets, or if they don't, that you have a game plan in place, and maybe it's an unusual year of an expenditure in that fund, and then your expenditures could exceed your revenue. You actually went up by $220,000, and again, you didn't transfer out as much as you had in the previous year in that fund, and then a little bit more in other revenue accounts for that. If we take a look at the very bottom of the page, your ending unencumbered cash balance for the funds that you actually have control over. These do not include these do not include the funds such as the townships, the cities, the school districts, and things like that. These are just your operation funds that you as county commissioners have some control over. At the end of the year, that balance is $19,589,085. If you compared it to the beginning of the year, you would see that you started the year with $20,336,227. But if you back out those unusual items, i.e. the beginning of the year, if you back out the $5.3 million of the general obligation bond, and then you come over into the end of the year and you take out your ARPA funding, the county's overall cash position actually increased by $1.9 million. So again, some unusual things if you take those out and look to make sure you're consistent. Are there any questions on this page?
Is the unencumbered cash balance where you think it should be? Or should it be more, or should it be less?
Well, actually, you three gentlemen answer the question with that. When you take a look at ending unencumbered cash balance, what does your next 5 to 10 years of budgets look like? What are you anticipating your expenditures and your needs are? You know, probably 10 years ago, we would have told you there was a rule of thumb. You'd have 3 months of operating expenses. 3 to 6 months operating expenses would be your ending unencumbered cash balance. But now when you take a look at it, you really have to plan out 10 years of where you think your expenditures are going to be. Where are your salaries going? What is the cost doing with insurance, utilities and that? And what are your overall capital needs? That right there is going to drive what your unencumbered cash balances need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not really a defined answer.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables when you look at 10 years out.
That it is. But again, with the revenue neutral rate in place and with the budgets, you know, you're always looking when you're preparing like the 2023 budget, you're always looking at 2025. Because, you know, you have to look ahead. You can't
Sure.
just look in the moment.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Nope, I have none.
Piggyback on Melissa real quick. One other thing that some of our counties look at is your improvement funds and your reserve funds. And is that cash pigeonholed, using somebody else's word, not mine? Or is it there for a specific reason? Are we just putting cash there to put cash there, or are we planning to use that in the next 5 to 10 years? Because that can increase your ending unencumbered cash balance. And some taxpayers would ask the same question, well, why do we have so much money in there? What are we using it for? And so it's nice to be able to show them, this is the plan for the next 5 to 10 years. This is what we have budgeted next year for whatever projects we have coming up. And so that's, it's nice to be able to see it.
Right.
written out.
And sometimes you need cash for projects you're not even aware of. You know, for example, when we had a bridge fail, and that cost us about $1 million. So, and you can't hardly plan for it unless you just put money away and be prepared when it happens.
Yes, that is correct in that you do have to be prepared, and that's the key.
Can I add on too?
Yeah.
To further answer your question, since she piggybacked, I'll piggyback off piggybacking. But we do have a county policy that states what the commission's intent was several years ago and what our encumbered cash balance should be. The policy states 45% of our annual budget, $28 million, $29 million. That's about $13 to $14 million just for the general fund alone. That doesn't include all these other ones that are listed. However, as they said, that we do have 4.5. If the budget policy is 45% or $12 million, we are significantly shy. But once you start adding in the reserve balances, you can consider those as part of your 45%. Within our budget talks, my goal is to get us up to 25% just in unencumbered cash for the general fund, which is about $7 million. And hopefully within the next 2 years, we'll be back to at least to that point of having 25%.
Sure.
But that's
Yeah,
kind
we
of
need to
answers
go
that
for it.
story a little bit.
And the one thing that I'll add on to Darren, and the reason why you can use those reserve funds, is if you get a couple years down the road and something were to happen, the statute is specifically written so it allows you, if you're not going to expend it in the capital improvement fund or the equipment reserve fund, it does transfer back to the fund that it came out of, and then you can rebudget and expend it. And so that gives you some flexibility when you're planning for projects and looking ahead. And so you do have some flexibility. It's not something you can't get back if you need it for operations.
Sure.
So you did say a mouthful there with looking into the future for 10 years because everything's going to go up. The public does the same thing. They're saving their funds for stuff too. So we're doing the same thing, do improvements or an emergency situation. So yeah, I like that part to plan out.
If there's no other questions on this page, I'm going to have you go to page 11. The pages between here and there are what we call notes to the financial statements, and those go over what the regulatory basis of accounting is doing or how things are recorded within the financial statements. On page 9, I did want to note underneath number 9, stewardship, compliance, and accountability. There are certain things that the county has to do, and unfortunately sometimes you incur what's called a budget violation because of it, or a violation. And so when you get monies in and you get an abated tax, the treasurer has to pay that abated tax back. And so basically, we did note that a few amounts exceeded the cash balance at the end of the year. Nothing actually will happen on this. It'll just be noted at the state, and then you'll go on your way, and they ask you to try not to do that again. And then there's one thing that KSA 44-1030 says that there should be a non-discrimination clause in public works contracts. And so again, those were not in there. We did visit with your contractors. I think they're all going to now add that. You have it posted from your HR department that you're not, you have non-discrimination policies. They would like it to be in the contract or someplace within the contract or when you do your RFPs or however it goes. Okay?
Okay.
The last page we're going to look at on the audit report, because again, all of this you've seen when Darren had presented the budget and had given it to you. So again, there's no surprises on the revenue or the expenditures or anything from that side. Just one thing we always take a quick look at, because it is just, again, it's a snapshot. This is compliance as of December 31st, 2021. And what we're taking a look at is we're looking at the county's overall debt. This past year, you actually entered into 4 new leases for $890,210, but yet you had retired $1,392,416 in debt. So again, you're retiring debt. All debt should be paid off by about the year 2030, including all your general obligation bonds at that point. Are there any questions on that? Otherwise, Jamie's going to go over the governance letter with you.
All right, we have a loose leaf governance letter. It's just two pages here. It should have been at the beginning of your audit book. This is what we call the governance letter, and so there's a few things that we are required to tell you about that we talked about with your management during the process of your audit. At the bottom of that first page, you'll see corrected and uncorrected misstatements. We did have a couple of journal entries that we will provide to get posted to the books. The entries in total were not material to the financial statement, so there is no material weakness or anything like that. But if we get those posted, then your books will match up to the audit report. So flipping over to page 2, at the bottom of that page, we have just 2 audit recommendations this year. During the review of payroll accruals, we found that there was actually a journal entry posted that the payroll department calculates, and they accidentally just posted it twice by mistake. And so there's a recommendation that if we add just one more layer of controls to that procedure, then they would have been able to catch that on their own, and then I wouldn't have ever needed to tell you about it because it would have already been fixed. Somewhat similar on that second bullet point on accounts payable, there was an item that was posted and there was just a date entered wrong, and so that caused it to post wrong. Again, if there's just one extra process put in place for that, then your staff will catch that next year. And so we've gone over both of those items with appropriate personnel, and we'll help them get that fixed for next year. But those are the only 2 items that I have to tell you about. So any questions on those items?
I have no questions. Commissioner Joe, any questions?
No, sir, I don't.
Commissioner Neal?
Just a comment. Thanks for what you guys are doing. You're doing a good job. Yeah, there may be some mistakes, but if you don't do anything, you don't make any mistakes. So thank you
Well,
both.
and it really comes back to all of the department heads and treasurer, clerk, everyone that assisted us on the audit. It's a team effort, and so we can't get the audit done without their assistance, and they're always more than willing to help and email me 4 different times because I asked the same questions 4 times. But and it makes it really convenient when I can just come downstairs and hassle Bobby whenever I want.
She loves that, by the way.
I know
She
she does.
does. Says it all the time.
She runs in the opposite direction.
Says, gosh, if she would just come down more often.
I'll make a point of it.
And again, just to echo what Jamie said, we all really appreciate everything everybody's done. Everybody's very easy to work with. We do appreciate that. At some point, if the audit report could be approved, then we do actually send it to the state, and the county does have to pay a $175 filing fee, and it is a required filing. So if you guys take care of that at some point, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Boy, that was
Okay,
pesky.
thank you,
Thank you
ladies.
again.
Okay, the next agenda item is the City of Victoria chip seal project.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brendan McKay, Ellis County Public Works Director. So before you tonight is a request from the City of Victoria to assist them with their chip seal project this year, similar to how we did in Ellis. They've marked out about 3/4 of a mile for us to assist them with. We provided them equipment and manpower. They would purchase the oil and the chips themselves. Hoping to, if approved, do it maybe later this month. They've got some more patching to do before it can be overlaid. And their material should be coming in here in the next few days, we hope. So, should be about a day project for us, less than a day, just,
Less than a day?
yeah. With all the movement, we'll be out there probably for a full day. We did about 2 miles in Ellis earlier this year, and that was one day.
Okay.
This one's got a bit more movement. It's marked on the map there. But might not be done before school starts, so it'll be a interesting time right by the school there, but hopefully.
Well.
And I didn't ask them to do in front of my house. That was their decision. Just
Just wanted to make sure that your wife had even more to blame you for.
oh yeah, she's already not happy because
I believe we helped them in the past on this too, haven't we?
yes, sir.
Yeah, this is pretty routine. Commissioner Neal, any comments, concerns?
What kind of staff do they provide?
So they provide generally someone on a broom.
Okay,
It's what we have. We have them help out and flag and redirect traffic.
okay.
Because there's all those spots we have to move around quite often. You can't have people drive over the fresh chips
Right.
quite so fast. So we have them, they'll help stage out barricades and also direct traffic around construction areas. And then with us and them, usually a crew sweeping on it beforehand. They'll be doing the patching beforehand, before the chips are applied, so they don't just immediately break out.
Right.
So they'll have a few of their staff out there as well on the
Good.
project.
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Joe, questions?
No, I think it's great. You know, it's partnership between all the different communities within the county, and Victoria's had. You know, we joke about the different road projects going on out there, but really it's exciting to see all that work being done on Cathedral and having that funding 2 years in a row, and something like this to help outside of that main thoroughway through town. So, you know, I'd move to approve the Ellis County Public Works Department to assist the city of Victoria in completing their chip seal project, utilizing county labor and equipment.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darren. Brandon, not Darren, Brandon.
You just got promoted.
Yeah.
And before Brandon leaves, I got a couple questions. If you can give us an update in Victoria, how they're doing there with the,
So currently in Victoria, they are up, do you mind if I walk up to the map here? Currently, they are up to 10th Street right at Cathedral. They poured that. I spoke with the engineer out there today. Votes Park was requesting, we discussed it previously, but the lead engineer is out right now. From 10th Street going north, taking out both lanes simultaneously, it helps speed up the project. I told him I was fine with it, but it affects the city the most. So he was gonna get with Brad Schmidberger, the Public Works Director for the city of Victoria. If he's not in favor of that, they'll just do one lane at a time. So we're over 50% done on this project, because all we have left is from 10th Street up to 13th Street. So 3 more blocks, 2 lanes, 40-foot wide, and then some curb and gutter and sidewalk for the city and the entrances. So if everything goes well and they keep getting the weather like they should, when they're out there and they're moving, they move pretty quick.
Good.
Just timing the weather right and getting them people out there to do it, because they remove the old asphalt and concrete, come back, grade it, and then add a rock base and the magic mesh. It's a geotextile fabric that allows water to drain out so it doesn't get pour in the base. Call it magic mesh because it looks like that. Then they come back and bring out their paving machine and pave it, and it moves when they're out there. I've been out there when they were working on it. So almost done there. Hopefully be done right at about the time school starts or just after. They're right at the 10th Street now, so hopefully they'll finish up that intersection here just before school starts. There's less congestion there, and my wife won't yell at me so much.
and then east of Walker, when are we scheduled to get those repaired?
So with those ones that you're talking about on Old 40,
Yes,
so there's like actually about 9 spots we've identified on Highway 40. Right now, with the lack of rain, I've got my bridge crew who does the concrete work. They're working on a few bridges while they can
Okay.
get underneath them to redo abutments and encapsulate some piling that need
okay.
to be encapsulated in concrete to keep them still open. Once we get to that little bit of moisture, that's what we're going to switch over that way, because we're going to try and cut out those 8, 9 sections and break them all out and pour the whole stretch all at once. That's why there's a few signs out there that still say bump with some cold mix in them. So there's a few of those. There's some where it hasn't heaved, but it's settled. And unfortunately, there's not really a good fix for that,
Yeah.
short of replacing the entire panel and the base underneath it. We've looked into trying to pump underneath there to bring it back up, but
Ain't gonna
I don't
happen.
think we have the correct tools in order to do that properly. So those will be more long-term fixes where we replace the entire panel, but where it's heaved and pushed up in spots, we've got 2 breakouts now that I know we need to fill. We've identified 8 to 9 others that we'd like to saw cut and replace before they do pop out like it's already happened.
Okay.
I think we've had 6 blowouts this year on Old 40, if I'm not mistaken. They kind of blend together because they all happen Friday night.
Then if you don't mind filling the other two commissioners in on when you and I and Kurt went down south on the river on Ellis Avenue, what our plan is there, if
So-
they're good with that.
Yeah, so our plan is down there, I know we've discussed, we did it on the road tour too, about taking those 5 miles and turning them back into a rock road, just because their amount of traffic doesn't justify having a paved road, and those northern miles are really, really bad shape. So our plan is this year, after chipping's done here in the next month and a half, to start milling and relaying rock in the first northern 2 miles. And that's our hope, to get those 2 miles done this year. And then it's in the 5-year plan to do 1 mile to 2 miles every year after that. So I met with the paving specialist from Foliant. He covers 100 counties for our road reclaimer. Discuss what our best option for doing that with our reclaimer is. We don't have a water pump on there to pump water in you need about 10% moisture in the material to get good compaction. We don't have a pump on there to pump it directly into it. So we can lay water ahead. He didn't really see that working out very well. He said Marion County's done something similar. So he just talking with us, we're gonna look at it, just putting a trash pump on a truck and pumping water directly into that. Because we do have the spray bar, we just don't have a water pump on the side of it to pump it into where the teeth are cutting. Because you have to keep those teeth cool. They're just steel with carbide tips. And when you're going through material, you want to drive it into the dirt to cool the tips down. There isn't really dirt there, it's just more cold mix and black sand right underneath it. So we can't get it deep enough into the dirt. So to try and save the life of the machine and the teeth on it, and then make a good product at the end of it.
When I was with those two guys, I was in the back seat of the pickup, and that one is bad, but
We're also
Yes.
in my Dodge truck that
Yeah.
bumps a little bit as you go.
I guess I wanted you to explain, instead of us starting on the Rush County line and coming up, I think we're going to start from the river. We have to, because it's getting unsafe.
Otherwise, we can put a lot of cold mix on that road, but we're still planning on taking it out. So just throwing good money after bad if we want to do it that way. So
I think you ought to stay with the plan, go with the rock, and
yeah,
get her done.
all right. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, the next agenda item is the Ellis County Health Department grant updates. Kim?
Good evening, Kim Rill, Ellis County Health Department Director. Tonight I am asking for an updated signature on the total grant page that will need to be submitted into the state. Over the past couple of months, I've been able to work with a grant writing team from across the United States. It's been about 12 to 15 grant writers that are specialists with the grants that we have in the state of Kansas. And we found out late Friday night that with their help, the Ellis County Health Department was awarded $248,000. I did attach some examples of what the money would be used for. These grants specifically are the IAP 3 and 4, which include vaccine access and vaccine equity. These are just some of the examples that we would use the money for. The new HVAC system, which you guys had already approved a couple of weeks ago. Last night I got a phone alert that I needed to check vaccine at 3:45 in the morning, so I have a feeling that our refrigerators and freezers are going to need to be replaced sooner than later, as well as our backup refrigerator is no longer working. So we do need to get something figured out there. Awning for drive-through access would be placed on the south side. We already have a bid for that. That would allow for patients to actually come up to the south side of the building to either get tested or vaccinated if they choose to do so. And then promotion of clinics was just some extra money that we threw in there. On IAP 4, which is vaccine equity, this would help to get the rest of our remodel done, which would allow for more people. We did have approximately 60 people in our clinic today, and it was standing room only this afternoon, all afternoon. Emr Software, we have discussed, that's going to be a replacement software through Patagonia to get rid of most of the paper in our clinic and to go to iPads, if you will, for customers to check in and update their forms. Promotion, marketing, outreach, or advertising. One member of the grant team actually looked at getting a billboard on I-70 for us for advertising, and broke that down onto the cost for me. Training and education for us to return to the Governor's Public Health Conference. That $4,000 is approximately what we spent this year, so it is budgeted for next year. The electrical portion of that is going to go with the awning in IAP 3. That was an approximate cost of what it would take for us to work on the electrical if the awning were to be approved. And then I always budget for supplies for vaccine clinics because we are not sure at this time how much longer the state's going to provide us free supplies. So I'd rather be prepared than not prepared. And then the FICA Health Retirement Workers Co., that was one of the stipulations that needed to be rolled over to salaries. So I have that back at the state for approval there. Are there any questions on these grants and what the purpose of the money would be used for?
How fast, and you talked about refrigeration specifically of vaccines, and, you know, depending on where we're at on the timeline, those can be hard to get a hold of. How quickly would you be able to have this money in place to take care of the refrigeration units?
I would just basically have to request the money through the bid that we've already received through Helmer. And then I'm pretty sure on one of the documents, it said within 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. I could be wrong on that, but I can check on that as well and get back with you.
Okay, I was just curious, and not to bring up the specter of monkeypox, because I'm sure you've heard enough of that, but,
Yeah.
but, you know, just from what I've seen online, where everything's true,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to get, if you should be in a position to need those vaccines, they're really hard to get a hold of, so.
Right. Right, and we will be adding a 4th COVID vaccine as well, Novavax. I did place an order for that to come next week. That is to be used for adults 18 and older, for anybody that's never received a COVID vaccine. It's made from a spike protein. There are no egg particles with it, so if you have an allergy to eggs, this should be safer for you to use. If it's a hesitancy that some people have had with the mRNA vaccines, such as Pfizer or Moderna, or the J&J vaccine as well, which is the viral vector vaccine.
How many monkeypox vaccines do you have?
Jynneos is the one that is being talked about. We did have an incident last week where I had to investigate 2 cases of that, so the state did bring us a small dose of Jynneos vaccine, which was given today in our office. I do have 9 doses left of that, but I have very strict guidelines from the state on what it can be used for.
Is that an IM injection?
It's a sub-Q.
Sub-Q? Okay. Are you getting a lot of requests for that?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, the media evidently helped out today a little bit by telling those that are 65 and older that they should be calling their local health departments and requesting a dose of the vaccine, which is not accurate information, unfortunately.
You said your waiting room was full all day?
Yes,
Was
it
that with back-to-school vaccinations?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah, hits you pretty hard this time of year.
it's fun.
Yeah,
It was a good day.
yeah. It's not so fun when you're 65.
Right.
Gentlemen, do we hear a motion for this?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the updated 2023 grant application for the Ellis County Health Department offered through the state of KDHE.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you for your job you're doing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hang in there.
I will.
Okay. Okay, the county administrator report. Darren?
Darren Myers, County Administrator. First thing I want to do is if we can go back a little bit to the audit, is a couple of the pages within the audit report that was attached to your agenda. There is the letter that Melissa was requesting that the commission assign. So just for the acceptance of the audit, if we could have a motion from the commission to accept the audit report and approval to sign their letter. It is attached. I don't know if, did you have that as part of them to sign tonight?
I have it here. I think, does it need to be on my letterhead? Which it's not, but I can have Butch sign.
We can sign it and then we can,
Is it just one signature? There's two signatures. Who needs to sign it?
the two of you.
Okay. I'll have Butch sign it after your meeting, and I'll put
Do
it
you
on
need
my
a-
letterhead.
Do you need a motion for that?
To approve the audit report, yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the auditor's report and sign any necessary documentation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. I just didn't want to interrupt earlier as we were flowing through into the next topic. Other than that, that's all I have tonight. Next week, we'll be talking about the final budget numbers for the report, or for the, not the report, for the final budget report. I'll have all the changes. I'll send them to the commissions independently so that we have some advance notice before the agenda comes out on Friday. However, there's not going to be a whole lot of changes. The most significant changes will be from the grants that you approved tonight for the health department. They'll change their operating and their capital budgets. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot than what the commission had addressed in the previous meetings. So that's a lot of what next week will be. And we'll be almost wrapped up until September 12th. We'll have the R&R hearing and the public hearing and final adoption of the budget. And then we'll be done with the budget season.
Okay, sounds good. County Commissioner reports. Commissioner Neal?
Last week, Monday, I went to the Ellis City meeting and joined them, and then I did go to the Hayes meeting too. And as I keep bragging on all our employees, Adams Brown just pretty much told us all what kind of employees we have here, what expertise we have. So I appreciate everything everybody's doing. Bobby, hang in there.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Joe?
I don't have any.
Okay, I have no report. I do have a question for Commissioner, or for Councilor Jeter, though. Next week, we're going to be canvassing the election. Is it okay for Commissioner Joe to be on the board of canvassers since he was involved in the election too? Is there an issue with that?
I'd say since I came nowhere near winning, there probably isn't an issue, but,
I think there probably is. You probably should appoint somebody else.
Okay,
I think we've done that before.
we've done that before.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So I think when Commissioner Hazelhorst did not sit on the board of canvassers, he had Mike Liker fill in for him, I believe.
I think we've had Ed Harbin do that.
Ed Harbin, and then we had a Mr. Markley one time done that too. That was for Commissioner Roth. So,
well, that'll open up my Monday morning, so.
so Darren, do you want to check with Mike, see if he'd want to sit in for that?
Sir.
Okay. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be sure of that before you came here. and-
Sure.
It's because someone could just make a stink about it
Yeah.
for no reason.
Again, there would be really no reason.
Yeah.
We saw the results that came out, and I congratulate the primary candidates that did as well as they did. And, we have one that's close and one that's pretty presumptive to have won, but still enough of a margin where you never know. But
No, there'd be no reason, but some people are just rascals.
yeah, sure. No, I wouldn't want to have my presence interfere with that process in any way. So if you do end up having somebody sub for me, please let me know before Monday morning. Otherwise, until you find out for sure, I'll still plan to be here. But if you let me know between now and then to not be here, why, that's fine too.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Any other business? With no other business, we will adjourn the meeting at 5:39.